So we're hoping to get back in the studio before too terribly long. But yeah, we're working hard, and we definitely want to get another round of releases out there before long. But we still have some stuff up our sleeve to release here in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
Good. So how is this current release, which you just did this like January 10th, right?
Yeah, January 10th. We're getting a lot of positive feedback from that.
Because they're hearing things that they're not hearing anywhere else.
Yeah, that's typically not covered.
Right.
Because I know your song list is definitely a song list that is not being covered in the CU area.
We generally do. We've had a few minor like disagreement, like funny kind of like, hey, we're doing this, blah, whatever. But we do all get along very well. Like we laugh a lot, like a whole lot. And I try to make Nick laugh at the shows as much as humanly possible while he's drumming, because it's just funny.
Is contagious. Once you hear it over his in-sync microphone that he wears, it's everybody laughs. It's just contagious.
Yeah, that's
oh goodness.
Was gone for 12 and then moved back 6 years ago. I always came back, so I would always sub for the Brat Pack. You know, Josh would need some time off, so I'd come in, I'd sub for the Brat Pack. I came in and played with 90s Daughter a couple times. I would come back and play with the Impalas at Ewers every once in a while. So I stayed very connected to Champaign, even though I was gone.
Yeah, well, and because you've got relationships that are like family, like
absolutely.
On stage, no swearing on stage. Okay, that's fine. Singer shows up. He hadn't heard any of this. And jumps up on the stage for the first song, and he's got a drink in his hand and a cigarette in his hand. He goes, "How the fuck you guys doing?" They canceled us and we left. They fired us on the spot.
Comes together, The last big opening I had was a song that my granddaughter gave me. She liked it, so it was The Greatest Showman. So I said, well, let me use that. So it was for her. She's 13 now.
Come with the collective of being positive, just basically come with the music that's positive and show you that you can be clean in your music and not be negative. And you don't have to cuss or say a lot of certain words and still be powerful and strong. And that's the message that I try to convey when I do my music. And I try to just teach people as I'm doing it as well. Put some knowledge in there, put some truths in there, and things like that.
So, and you're right. It oh my God.
Yes, she went to Skins and Sins and met Liz and Terry. Mm-hmm. And shout out to Liz and Terry. Love you guys. And Liz and Terry said, hey, we'll get him a nice drum set. It's a real one. And I think it was like for $300. And I played that thing all night, all day. I played it so long.
Now, why I did this, I don't know. But I remember I was explaining it to some grown-up. This is green, and this is blue, and this is yellow, and they were all kind of amazed that I did that. Well, what I try to do with, because I don't consider myself a guitarist as much as I am
another acts, and we were having 1,000 to 1,500 people come out every Friday. It's just a free Friday night downtown concert in downtown Danville from like 6 to 9, and it's always a blast. People come down there. They just know every Friday we're going to come down here and have a good time. Food vendors and great bands and all your friends. And
is that still happening?
Yeah,
that's happening this year too, because I believe we shared a post on it.
Yeah, so I'm actually coming to do it again this year. They hired me to come take it.
David and I were really about the only original ones, although Jerry Guthrie also joined us real early after that for a while. But we were, where did we come from? I played a little bit at David's house when he was playing guitar. And I playing harmonica, and we were doing some Neil Young stuff. I forget what all we were doing back in the very, very early days.
Hang out with him.
Oh, please.
I know there's times he's like, you got to go do something, Dad. Well,
Go ahead.
just for a second, I would say, David, if it weren't for you, none of us would be here.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I don't think I would have, myself, I don't think I would have been enlightened so much into singer-songwriters, if it wasn't for David, honestly. So, and then
positive. You got to look for the positive and even the worst of negatives. It's an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity to grow. When something bad happens, this is an opportunity for you to step up and do something. Just something. Just do it.
And that's a very valid point, because our first 3 podcasts were with bands that fairly new. They got shut back by COVID, and they were.
That's the main thing about writing songs. It's just the creative process. Because, when we write the songs, when we listen to them, and I don't know how many people know this or not, but it is a thing. It's that when people write music and they record it, they don't know how to listen to it like the people who are listening to it. It's a subjective, objective, difference.
I can understand that by way of, and Zakk can too, I know, by way of just being a photographer, it's the same thing.
I was 3-4 years old, tinkering around on little toy drums and with a guitar. I've always had an instrument in my hand, so I think it's kind of been ingrained in me to have an instrument and play an instrument. So I think I picked up the piano first when I was maybe 7 or 8, and then that followed with the drums followed that, and then I kind of stuck with that for a while. And at first, when me and him started gigging, I played drums and piano. But I think it was when I was a freshman. I was playing some sports, and I was kind of not having too much fun with it. And I saw a video on YouTube of a girl showing her like 1 year progress of guitar, and I was like, I could do that. So I picked up a guitar and started playing that, and took off from there, and that's when it really blossomed.
I don't know why I'm a little surprised that you didn't start with I would have assumed you started with the guitar.
Band. And there were lots and lots of local musicians who passed through that program at the Illini Union in the 50s and 60s. Donnie Heitler got his start there when he was a freshman in 1956, I believe, 57, and he was like the pianist for quite a while on the University of Illinois campus in the 50s and 60s as a student. There was another fellow who came down from Chicago in 1960, a saxophonist named Ron Dewar, who was a huge player in this town for many, many years. And he was instrumental in getting involved with the first formal jazz program at the University of Illinois, who was led by John Garvey, who I'm sure many people remember that name from the University of Illinois days in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s.
Was in place where there's a higher level of royalty to people that are successful and so forth. And I think it's always going to be a small amount. Well, I mean, it'll always a comparatively small amount, but if somebody listens to and achieves critical mass, it still contributes to being large amounts. I don't hear, the giant stars complaining about this. Well, everybody complains about it, so never mind. I think there are, and I have some utopian ideas even that I tell the students, which would take another hour for me to talk about. But I think there are some ways to make to better support professional creators and to treat them as the professionals that we are. So I'm not saying that everything is perfect now, but I think we have the tools. And this is something that I was just talking about my students, where to start.
So that's where I started initially. And then he got another system, and the next thing you know, I'm working in Albuquerque itself. And so I moved back to this area about 18 years ago, and I ran into a gentleman named Steve Morris, owner and operator of Insomnia Karaoke, and similar situations. A bit of a quiet personality. I would go and sing a song, and I'd sit in the corner, but he got to know me a little bit and asked if I'd be interested in working with him.
For those who are out there listening, coming from a kid who has done amazing stuff and has done
so much stuff. It doesn't matter what you do in life. If you stick to the one thing, whether it's the performing arts, whether it's baseball.
We were in Brixton, South London, and we got there and none of the gear was there. And we were all though at the club, and they had a couple of pieces of things there. And so we just played out of I sang out of an amplifier. Ed put his snare drum. This Ed O'Hara was in the band. And Ed put his snare drum on a chair, and and we just jammed with just whatever we had. And I'm telling you, those people down in Brixton probably still talk about that to this day because it was so much fun. And that's just one of those things you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, but the show must go on, right?
Yeah, the show went on, and it was so much fun. And
I know I had to sell a bunch of guitar equipment and buy a bunch of bass stuff. So,
so you just stuck with that, with the bass.
Yeah, you can get a lot more gigs playing bass than you can playing guitar. So, I realized that I could have a better stage presence when I played bass than I did guitar. Not as many strings to worry about, I guess.
Yeah,
well, I think we're just regroup, just worked our butt off in here, and now we're ready to, come out again. I mean, and I don't know.
I mean, I think we still do want to be a little bit selective on the kind of gigs we play because we're not a cover band. I mean, that's just the thing that.
Yeah.
We play some covers, but we're just not.
Yeah.
You were playing pretty heavy in what was that place? What I think it was in Ivesdale. Was that
on par with that experience? Of being in the role of teacher and seeing your students shine, and the pride and the just the satisfaction that comes with that experience. That's tough to beat.
That's really cool. So, do you get emotional during that time?
Oh God, yeah.
Because I could tell you, kind of we're a little bit just talking about it. So yeah, I would say that's your.
It gets me for sure. Yeah, that's. I'm very, very proud of those camps and what that has done, for music in Central Illinois. And yeah, it's just very, very proud to be a part of it.
With the chord book, and I put it down. I didn't pick up another instrument until I was in college, and I started on bass guitar. I figured you can walk into anybody's apartment or dorm in college and they have an acoustic guitar sitting in the corner, but how many times you walk in one of those rooms and there's a bass guitar? So I thought that was cool and different. So I started out on bass, mostly self-taught. I did take lessons for a couple of years.
Came home from, I think it was Wednesday night. She'd been at church choir practice, and she came home, and he and I are out there working on it. He says, "Mom, grab your bass guitar and get out here and learn this song." So that's basically where the Zakk Dable experience started. We learned a couple songs. One of them was George Harrison's "My Sweet Lord" that we ended up doing for a church thing. And then he just decided he was ready to start a band. So he started recruiting. He stole a couple members from my garage band, actually. And so at 15, we had a band. And we
being in their earbuds and being like, oh, boom, 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 boom. And things like that most people through most popular music, like your top Billboard Hot 100, right? It's not gonna hit you like that. They're used to.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the best answers that I have ever gotten about that. Yep.
So
I like
also, I just want to put this out there too about the album. Streaming sites and shit will not really allow you to listen to this album like we wanted it to be listened to, because if you think Dark Side of the Moon, stuff like that, where we've got interludes and things like that between songs that
good stuff. It's a little bit outside of what we would never play that in regular KIO programming, for instance. That's outside of,
which is no offense to him.
No.
It's
right.
Yeah.
Well, see, it's good to understand that, because that knowing that or whatever, it just helps people to not be like, oh, well, it's just my song or it's just my
Yeah,
music.
no, right. And it's a personal thing when you write a song. That's about as personal as it gets.
Mhm.
And I remember Lou Gramm and Mick Jones, when they got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Songwriters Hall of Fame, they said that meant way more to them than if Foreigner were inducted, because it's such a personal process. You know, you're really putting your soul out there a lot of times. And so, again, to that, we'll never turn down any music, right? So the more the merrier. And if it fits, sometimes we've got it. You know, you're kind of categorizing it as we go on.
To this group, they're going to be this amazing powerhouse supergroup. I think those days have gone by. I think music is now so segmented and into subgenres that it's a little bit freeing, because you don't have to be this world dominating artist anymore. Because if you can get 100 people to subscribe to you on Patreon every single month, you're now making a good amount of money. If you're able to come up with a YouTube channel that's just showing all the things that you're also learning right then and there, then you can. I know people who brought in almost $300,000 through YouTube channels last year. I mean, it's just the whole game has changed so much. So the fact that I get to work in that realm in music now, and I don't have to be out gigging unless I want to, and I can. I feel very lucky to do that. It's funny. My wife and I were just talking about this. If I had any, regrets or any kind of like choices or anything that I would change.
And most of that on the weekends doing it. I put most of it together on the weekend and then have it ready by Tuesday.
And then how ahead of time do you do the event list? Like, for instance, Monday's event list, when would you have gotten that compiled and ready to go? Because you do a scheduled post, so that like at midnight, the following day will come up on the page.
Usually around 10 p.m. was when I put them on there. But over the weekend, I usually have Mondays ready over the weekend sometime, and there usually isn't a whole lot happening on Mondays. I think everybody's worn out from what they've done over the weekend, and Monday's a light day. Two things I try to get on there are WEFT sessions, which